this spiritual, a whole debate, but there was a true story about it, okay? After he saw that, so we were talking, and he says, you know, the Gentile spirit, we really don't have information on. We don't know, okay? The Jewish spirit, we do know. We have our traditions, and this is how we do it. So, as much as I would like to say, you know, in this generation, but he did go on to say, my father-in-law, that he said it's pretty interesting how you could say many people who have schizophrenia, it's possible that some of them, not all, could be possessed. Okay? It's kind of strange. There was actually, you know, they have something working there. There was a woman actually who had it, who was staying in my apartment in Israel, and I had one of these, these Swami books, you know, Maharishi, or from an ashram, a Buddha book, a little pamphlet, but I shoved it in my, and I have a lot of books, and I shoved it in the back of a bookcase once, you know, because I wasn't going to read it, whatever. Somebody gave it to my father, bought it for me, I shoved it back there. She's sitting on the couch, and all of a sudden she gets up, and she goes over, and she reaches her arm back there, and she pulls out the book and says, you have to get rid of this. This is black. I'm like, dude, where'd you find? How'd you know that was there? Busted! So, you know, but she had something working there. I don't know, I can't say what. So, you know, I would like to say that, you know, people, you know, it would be interesting, a test to go to a hospital and see the people who have schizophrenia to try to investigate to find out. But, you know, something, you know, we don't, I don't know if we're on a level, and definitely I wouldn't consider myself on a level. And the reason why is because when one of these rabbis is going to do an exorcism, it's very dangerous. It is, because the spirit, if you cannot rectify it, and you're going to drive it out from the body, it could damage. It could damage you. Okay, it can go into you, and then who's going to get it out of you? Right? You're going to get JoJo. I don't know if JoJo knows how to blow his shofar, because Rabbi Cohen certainly doesn't. Okay? So, you know, so therefore there is a danger. You have to be on a rabbi has to be on a certain level in order to extricate the spirit, right? In order to effect a rectification for that spirit, a tikkun. So therefore, you know, the person has to be on a level. Okay, there are certain instances where they do where the toes will swell up when the spirit is leaving the body, right? Because that's where it's leaving out through the toe. They say they recommend to open a window. If there's no window, sometimes they'll blast a hole through the window. There are cases like that. Okay?
So the spirit floats out?
Yes.
That's my question. Like, what happens to the spirit?
Yeah. It kind of floods out through either, you know, toe, ear, something, who knows what. Sometimes an eye. The eye, you'll see the eye swell. And then it goes out. Okay? So
you can't cross a window?
Yeah.
to wherever its place is. Hopefully, if it achieved a rectification, it could go to its next stage, its next step. Maybe it'll get to go to Gehenna. Sometimes this Rabbi Yehuda Fataya could not cure the people. He couldn't help them. Sometimes they died. The person died. Right?
So if the person died and the spirit has not left them, what happens?
The spirit still leaves because the spirit of the person leaves them.
That belongs to
Okay,
Gehenna.
okay.
But if they merit to go to Gehenna, you got to merit to go to Gehenna. Okay?
Wow.
So now, like I said, going back to like Emily Rose, it could be that Gentiles do have demons that can invade their body. As we saw with Emily, I think she wrote down that there were 8 demons possessing her. Okay? So now you got to ask, well, what's a demon, right? Which is a whole nother classification of a creation. Okay? There's an interesting midrash that it brings down in Genesis about the creation of demons, that they were created on the 6th day. Okay? Very strange text. Okay? The text goes like this. It says that on the 6th day, God created the souls of the animals, the souls of man, and the souls of demons. And then he created the bodies of the animals, and he took the soul of the animal and put it in the body. Then he created the body of man, and he took the soul of man and put it in the body. And then it came time to create the bodies of the demons, and Shabbos came. Sorry.
Good sign.
Sorry, Shabbos, we're closed. We're closed. Right? You turn the sign over. Closed. You're not. Closed. Okay? Strange text. And therefore, the text goes on, therefore, we learn manners from the demons. Okay? What do you mean by manners? It's in Hebrew, it's derech eretz. Okay? Derech, that if someone is walking, even with a precious pearl, something that you shouldn't be handling on the Sabbath, and then it's before the Sabbath. On Friday, they're walking with some money, okay? A wad of money, okay? And you go, hey, Joe, it's Shabbos, right? Shabbat. So the person drops it, right? That's the end of the text, okay? In other words, God was about to create the bodies of the demons, and, oh, Shabbos, sorry, okay? Very strange text, okay? This is the way I explain it, okay? Actually, there's a three-way argument about what these entities are, but we'll have to get to it at a later class, because there's lots to talk about. But the concept really was, of course, what is God bound by time? This is so strange. Come on, right? But the idea here is that, of course, God intended them not to get bodies. And the way I explain it is, has to do with the idea or the concept of free will. So as we know that God, one of the main important ingredients in Judaism is free will. There has to be influences for this and influences for that. There has to be positive influences. There also has to be a source of negative influences. So the demons are basically the source of all the negative influences. I've heard one Kabbalist explain, just to take a little backtrack here, they didn't get a body, right? And they are really upset. Okay? Just 1 second here. And they are really upset, okay? And therefore, they seek revenge against God, and they're going to take it out on man. Okay. So, do demons exist? Now, just to get into this again, okay? Okay. Demons do exist, okay? They are called, actually, in Hebrew, the word shade. Okay, shin and daled. And that's when you have your mezuzahs. If you have your scroll of your mezuzah, you have to make sure that you have all three letters facing out. If your mezuzah is turned a little bit slightly, and it's only shin and daled, you better turn it back to make sure it's either only a shin or a shin, daled, and yud. Okay? Because if you're lacking the yud, you're left with shin and daled. Okay? They are now, since there was a rabbi in the time of the Talmud who was able to, with the power of his Torah, to banish them from all civilized areas. Okay? They don't exist in places where people live. Okay? But they are some kind of ethereal, spiritual existence, and they do influence people. There was a Gemara, actually, in the Talmud in Brachot that says, Rabbi Binyamin quotes a verse that there's 10,000 on my right and 1,000 on my left, a verse from King David, and it speaks about these entities that there are all around us, and if you want to see them, you have to take basically these certain a placenta of a black cat, the daughter of another placenta of another black cat. You dry it up, you burn it, you put it on your eyes, and then you can see them. But make sure your mouth is shut, because if your mouth is open, they'll damage you. So of course, one winner tries it. I'm going to try that, and he tries it, and of course he gets damaged. Okay, because his mouth was open, right? So, but it's. You can explain that text as being like it's germs, because if we would see the germs that are in the air right now and what germs look like, we would also probably freak out. Okay? But we do say that in the spiritual realm, there are entities, spiritual entities that are out there. And the thing is, we don't know, right? We are here in this world. We don't know what's in the world beyond. I mean, there are many worlds beyond, but the most closest world beyond, right? There are many entities, and we really don't know who they are or what they are. That's why they say, you know, if you're going to do some out-of-body meditation, deep meditations, you got to have your map, because otherwise, if you don't really have your map or you cannot recognize entities, you might be fooled. It would be like, let's say, if I would take you and plop you downtown in some remote city in Bogota, where you don't speak the language. Well, maybe you do speak. Greece, Athens, wherever, Russia, and you're downtown Russia, and you're at the mercy of who's ever there. They might see you. It might be somebody who will take advantage of you. It might not be. Okay, it might be somebody who will help you. This is the point of why seances are forbidden. Because when you're contacting the world beyond, the world of the spirits, you don't know who you're contacting. Okay? You could think you're talking to your great-grandpa Pinchas, or whoever, or Grandma Isserlis, or whoever it is. You really don't know. Okay? It's like you're making a random call. You don't know who's picking up the other line, and they know who you are, and they could be playing a big joke on you. Okay? Like a big prank phone call, right?
So that means the spirits are not dead. When someone dies, they're not really dead.
No, absolutely not. We know, in terms of the soul, there are many texts that the first 7 days that the soul passes away, they go from their grave to their homes. That's why we cover the mirrors, because they'll see themselves and it'll cause them pain. We say every anniversary of their death, they go from heaven down below. They visit their graves. That's why we go and visit the graves of the deceased relatives on the day that they died, their yard site, right? And things like that. So there are aspects of the soul that do wander. But then there are these other entities we have called demons, which are basically troublemakers, okay? They are the negative forces that God allows to exist in order that we would get influenced by them, or if we so choose to, okay? But there has to be an equal level of influence. There's positive influences, and God had to create an army or a force of negative influence. And that's what we would call the demons, okay? Yeah, have you got a question?
Why would the mirror cause them pain?
Why would the what?
Mirror cause them pain?
Because they don't really realize they're dead. They don't believe it. It hasn't really sunken in yet. So therefore they would see themselves in the mirror, but they would see something else, and then they would realize, so therefore, we teach sensitivity. Some people think the reason why you cover the mirrors is because the mourners can't put on makeup and stuff like that, and they don't want to see them, you don't want them to see themselves, but really it's for the sake of the dead. That's still said to be going from the grave to the house. So in any case, in terms of, let's say, the box, and we discussed these naked souls, and we've discussed the demons. So I'm just giving a theory, shooting a theory out, okay? That there is a way. It's very hard for me to say that this box, this case, would actually be what we would call these naked souls, or these naked spirits, okay? It seems hard that they would be attached to that, okay? And even harder that they would actually be able to do damage, such as breaking light bulbs, causing strokes, or causing sickness, or things like that. Demons, on the other hand, we do have records that they do something, things like that. They can cause damage, okay? The same Gemara in Gemara Brachot says, when you're sitting in a class and you feel stuffy, that's them. Airplanes are all on the airplanes without a ticket, right? They say it causes the bruises in the feet of the scholars. If you find bruises on your feet and you don't know why, okay?
We used to believe that when we were little that if you woke up with a bruise and you didn't know where it came from, that was the reason.
That was what?
That was the reason. Unknown bruises being pinched.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
By a
Now,
spirit?
we do say that they don't exist in inhabited places. and especially if you have a mezuzah on your door. However, I'm going to say the proviso, we'll end off with this. Rabbi Yehuda Fataya does say, okay, it could be, and you're going to hate me for this, okay, that if you're having a really bad dream, right, that they're in the ears whispering and chanting you in terms of this creating, instilling such a dream. But he gives you the answer. When you wake up, we should check our mezuzahs. Make sure there's a shin or shin daled yud. Okay? If you wake up and you're having one of these dreams, you have to tell the demon, if you have an enemy around somewhere, you have to say, go to so-and-so. You have to sick them on someone else. If you happen to have a real, if you have one of those kind of animals, right? You don't really want it, but that's the way to, But otherwise, you can just say, get out of here. Or you say the Shema. We say the Shema, 3 paragraphs of the Shema every night before you go to bed. As we say in our tradition, if you say the Shema, all 3 paragraphs, including the first 3 words, Keil, Melech, Ne'eman, it equals 248 words. The 248 words correspond to 248 limbs of the body. The Arizal, the 16th century Kabbalist, says we say this before we go to bed at night because it is protection over all of the limbs of our body. So therefore, if you say this, it's total protection. You have the mezuzah, you learn Torah at night, you say the Shema, and you're covered. However, if you happen to be camping in some lone area, make sure you're always with a friend. Okay? It brings down that there are if you're alone in an uninhabited area, 3 people, there's no damage. 2 people, there's a sighting, but they can't damage you. In other words, you'll see an experience, and 1 person can get damaged if they're all alone. Okay? But always just say the Shema if you're ever freaking out. Okay? It's always the cover. It's always the protection. Okay? So there's much more to talk about in terms of that entity. Okay? So therefore, seances basically are forbidden because when we're making the call, you don't know who's answering the phone. Okay? Like my parents, they were contacting. I'll go into it in a later class, exactly all the details of who they were contacting and have an interesting discussion with. Unbelievable stuff, right? But some of the things they say are true, like my dad, father, and the dollar bill, right? Also, there was a person who was sitting around the table in the seance who was like an engineer working on a top secret missile, and they were having a problem with the missile. For months, they couldn't figure out the problem. He decided to ask them. They say, wait a minute. They came back and they say, check this and this area. He checks that area, boom. But they also said I'd be 6'4". And I'm still a flaming 5'8".
That was the joke?
So, 5'8". Okay, so in any case, so that's why we have Emunah. God protects us. We stick with the Shema. And we don't really tend to worry about these things. But on the other hand, you got to know your brachas, your blessings. You have to always say a blessing before you eat food. Because the little girl happened in Europe who took some from the water without a blessing. If she would have said a blessing, the Spirit said if she would have said a blessing, the Spirit would not be able to invade. Okay?
Also, I learned with one rabbi that you're not supposed to leave or drink water. That water that's uncovered during the night.
That's a known law. Thank you for reminding me. That's a very important law. 3 liquids that are left uncovered overnight, one is not supposed to drink. Water, wine, and milk.
So you're supposed to cover them.
Absolutely. All water. It's like some people, even though you're supposed to wash your hands right as soon as you. Some people keep water next to their beds to wash their hands first thing in the morning from the tumah, from this energy. Bad energy. So they even cover that wall. But definitely no drinking. If there was wine left in a bottle overnight that's uncovered, one should not drink it. And things like that.
What if you drink it but you do a bracha?
They say do not drink
Do
it.
not drink it because
Now the
spirits-
reason that Gomorrah brings down is snakes. Which, wait a minute, I don't have any snakes.
Snakes?
But there's what kind of snakes?
What about snakes?
Snakes like wine.
Oh.
So you'll be attracted.
Hmm?
You'll be attracted.
Oh, really? I heard they drink it. No, they drink it. There was once a guy on a boat with some wine, and he was like, row faster! The snakes were coming after him. It was like one of those, like, piranha movies or something. They're beating it with the oar. They're coming out. No, they like to drink the wine, and if they drink from the wine, they put poison. Part of their poison goes into the wine, and therefore you're drinking their poison. That's the simple understanding. But they always know, Chazal, our wise men always say there's much deeper reasons. If you have a completely sealed house, that they still don't recommend to drink the wine because it could be spiritual snakes.
Scary. Wow. Rabbi, the only thing I don't understand, if demons come to make a correction, they come as evil.
Demons do not
How
come to
do
make
they
your
come to-
correction. Oh, so, good. You're saying very good. The rabbi, it used to be the rabbis would not go out on Friday nights and Tuesday nights, because that's Yom Ravi, because the demons were allowed to go out at that time. Has to do with the creation, how the creation was made. What? No. It was because it wrote down in Ma'oros, Vihi Ma'orot, it moves down. So don't read Moros, it's Ma'arat, which means it was like a cursed day. Okay? It was a bad day. Wednesday's a bad day. Okay? So they wouldn't go out on eve of Wednesday, which is Tuesday night, the day before, because the demons were allowed to go out. One time there was a rabbi going out, and all of a sudden he's met with his demon, and the demon says, if it wasn't for you, that's so much Torah in heaven, and you have so much merit, I'd be able to damage you. So that's when the rabbi says, well, since I have that power, therefore you're gone. You and all your kind are banished from civilized areas. So the power of Torah has a tremendous light to it, that they cannot affect you, and I would even go so far as to say they cannot even see. It's like they're too bright, right? Because the idea here is this: if your deeds are a high quality deeds, they can't see you, they can't notice you. You're on a different wavelength. You're on a different energy level.
Right.
But if a person has low style deeds, so therefore his energy is low, so therefore low style energies attract to him. It's an energy kind of thing. That's all about energies. A person who's in a positive will attract the positive energies, and the person who's not, he's going to attract the low style energies, and that's where this field of these mazikim, or these damagers, are in. So a person's own deeds takes him to that.
So when you check your scroll in your mezuzah,
Yeah.
which direction should that be pointing? Out?
Yeah, well, you can't see it now, but many mezuzahs have a glass cover.
Right.
Or when you make sure you put them in, you have to make sure which way it's facing when you're putting them up. Don't start ripping the mezuzahs out now. I'm sure you're okay. I can see her. She gets
I'm
she's
gonna go home
ripping
and
them
get
out. No,
Rabbi
you
tries
don't.
to put mine
You don't
in.
have to go crazy. Okay.
So
Yeah.
Are those souls that get stuck in objects, like tables and trees or whatever, are they just make it so
No, those souls are being reincarnated. They're in a process. They've made it to be a rock, right? We do believe in reincarnation, Judaism, and certain elements of souls, which could be answering your question. Sometimes the soul is a whole soul, and it did fantastic things in its lifetime, but it's not totally complete, and there are fragments or elements of the soul that need to continue in terms of their process, their refinement. So therefore, parts of that soul might be reincarnated into inanimate matter, plant, livestock, right? So therefore, they are considered to be in a process, right? So the person who spoke too much lashon hara, who is now reincarnated into a rock, right? He sits there until
I can't say a word.
can't say a word. Not speaking much now, are ya? Got much to say? Don't have much to say now, do ya? Until a righteous, holy soul will go and sit on the rock, maybe make a blessing, and that elevates the soul of the rock, and then it moves on to the plant world. And then if it gets, if it gets a fruit, it's a holy fruit, and then it gets eaten with a blessing, it goes on to the animal world. And then, from the animal world, then it goes into the speaking entities. So therefore, that's part of the process. So at least it's a process.
From the animal to the human.
Inanimate to human. From rock, plant, livestock.
And then human.
Yeah.
Human is the ultimate goal.
Yeah, for sure. Because you can do much more.
Yeah.
The opportunities are so amazing. You don't even know the opportunities that we have.
So if we're really bad in this life, we may not even come back in another life?
It depends. There's lots to talk about in that area. That's on the class on reincarnation. Yeah.
Curious, there are demons and then there are also these spirits and there's the Jewish world and then there's the rest of the world. Are they picky about where they go and who they talk to?
The rest of the world?
No. The demons and the spirits.
Like I say, I think really what it depends upon the energy level of the entity. If the energy level of the entity is a low style entity, like the person, right, does low level acts. Okay? Transgression, sin, basically he's a gangster or whatever. So he's going to attract those entities, and therefore those entities are going to be allowed to have a certain level of influence or control over him. As opposed to a certain person whose deeds are lofty deeds, high level. So therefore they are impervious to him. It's like, a person who's healthy, germs can't have an effect on them. Germs are deathly afraid to meet such a person who's healthy. But as a person who's sick, basically, they can get more sicknesses and more sicknesses, right? So they attract more of that negativity. It's all about birds of a feather flock together kind of thing. Does that answer your question?
Okay.
Demons will only be attracted to entities that do that low-level acts, bad things, because that energy of a bad act is basically like it's like a flare for them. It's like
So the girl who drank water,
yeah.
that was...
Even though she might be a high entity, but to drink without a blessing for some reason, and I'm not, it's just one little isolated case. I don't know if I can generalize it, but this is what came out of that, which was when you say a blessing over something, right? You are igniting the holiness in the water, because when you say the name of God, you ever saw What the Bleep Do We Know? There's a great movie out. What the Bleep Do You Know? What the Bleep Do We Know?
Fabulous movie.
They actually did some really great studies in that
Great
movie,
movie.
where they actually
But
took
we're
on this
not yet.
really fine a microscope, some kind of crystalline microscope, water that was like basically cursed before it was drank, water that was blessed by the Buddhist monks, right? And they didn't do one that was blessed by a rabbi, okay? But they did, let's say, water which a person had certain thoughts, and they took the pictures of it, and it is just astounding what they look like. That the one that was blessed, by the Buddhist monks had like unbelievable white crystals, and the one that was cursed by the people with negative energy was black.
We have a book with it here.
Where they blink with no
With those pictures in it?
Yeah.
Fascinating study.
No.
So the idea here is, and they don't know this, because everybody has the opportunity. When you say the name of God before you drink that thing, you are igniting unbelievable holiness in that. That's impervious to any other negative spirit. It's gone.
Also, if you think about yourself, you are made of 90% water. So if you have a negative impact, negative thoughts, that has to protect.
There you go. That's very interesting. Hey, we say that every thought that you think creates there's an angel created, based on whatever the nature is that thought, whether it be positive or negative. That we are serious co-creators in our own destiny, and starting with the thoughts. Yeah.
How does the concept of the existence of demons go with the concept of the Satan?
I never heard they ever met or had a conversation. I don't recall any in my head right now, but I'm gonna just shoot from the hip and say that Satan uses them. They are his army because they are his he's able to use them to go ahead and do his, his handiwork.
Like the story with
But now you have to understand something. Let's just take a step back here. The Satan works for God. We don't hold the Christian idea that he's at war, God is at war with this fallen angel. He does, everything is in the hands of God, and he allows this stuff to exist for certain reasons. And it could be dependent upon many factors that are probably beyond our comprehension. But basically, if man's deeds are kosher, so then these calamities don't happen. But if man messes up and his deeds, his bad negative deeds outweigh his positive deeds, so in order to affect the balance, so then calamities have to happen in order to wake mankind up.
But that is kind of a call to say, wake up, you're going to the left, you have to come to the center.
That's kind of a cult.
No, a call.
Always a call. God's calling us all the time.
Back.
How sensitive are you? The question is, how sensitized are you? Did you need a huge slap? Or you need, hey, psst, get it together, man. Okay? Some people just need a little, some people, their father just looks at them like this, and that's it. Right? Some people need a whack with a belt, right, in order to get in line. Right? Mankind in general. When are we going to get it together, So there is a day where evil and death is swallowed up forever. It's not necessary anymore. We got it. We got what we're supposed to get. We got the lesson. We're at the relationship. We're in the relationship with God, the level we're supposed to be on. So there's no need for death or any of the things that follow, or calamities or anything like that. So basically, in a nutshell, that's why these things are allowed to exist.
the story of Job.
So you got to know the whole
when
rest
Satan,
of the story.
when Hashem gave him permission.
Why? How can
Hashem
God?
gave Satan permission.
How can God give
To
Satan
go test
permission
him.
to go get him?
Go
How can that
try
be?
him.
You know why?
Because he knew.
Because he knew what?
He knew the level of Job's belief and his faith in Hashem.
There's the rest of the story. Do you know the rest of the story? The Zohar
What
brings
is your
down.
side of it?
The Zohar says he was one of the advisors to Pharaoh.
He was silent when...
Right.
And he was telling Pharaoh about the Jewish people, don't kill them, don't do genocide like what Balaam says. You have to just oppress them and take their money. So Pharaoh did that. And there's Job, now he's getting oppressed and taking, and they take his livelihood away, and he has to be quiet because he made the Jews. It's everything that goes around comes around. And the Satan was allowed to go get him, believe it or not, for other odd reason. Everything that Job did was an olah. You know what an olah? There's different kinds of sacrifices that you can make. An olah is called a burnt offering, where the whole thing, God gets the whole thing. Right? So every time that Job did a sacrifice, it was all God, only God. He never gave the dog a bone. There's some offerings where you eat some of it. There's something called a peace offering, where just a little bit goes to the priest, a little bit goes on the altar, and the rest you take home, you feed your family. Right? So you eat, you feed your body. Got it? Some of this, some of that. Right? You have to sometimes give the other side. You have to give the dog a bone.
The Cohen.
Not the Cohen even.
No,
You have to
the
feed your...
other side.
You have to. Job, everything was all God. He never gave the dark side anything. Okay? In Judaism, oddly enough, every mitzvah has something to give to the dark side. Weird. The tefillin. You ever seen tefillin? The boxes? The white string in front of the boxes? How weird. It's like the leftover part when they're sewing it. They have to leave it in front, right there. If you're going to sew it and you want to make it like really sharp, heck, you'll leave it down there and you'll close it off where you won't even see a little white hair sting. You have to have the white hair.
I never noticed that.
The imperfection. A little bit off. Just to give to the dark side. Just a little. The Brit Milah, we take the circumcision, we throw it on the ground, getting to the dark side. When we wash our fingers after the meal, we have to wash that. You know what we say? You know what they say? This is for the dark side, right? This is for the evil one, right? From God. And we have to take that water away from the table. Take it away.
Right.
All of that's... Job did nothing for the dark side. No Maimach Ronim, no nothing, right? So that's why the Satan says, I never got a bone from him. So God says, go get him. you know. In any case, though, we should all be zoiche. Since it's a weird kind of speech to give before Rosh Hashanah, right? Like, what does this have to do with Rosh Hashanah?
I was trembling.
Yom Kippur.
Trembling. All our deeds should be holy, pure. They should all be on a very high vibratory level of vibration, right? We should only attract good, unbelievable things and great influences, and Hashem should save us from any negative influences whatsoever.
Amen. Amen.
Saku Baruch.
And hopefully everyone will see their bodies and not in the shadow.
Did it go off?
Uh-oh, it's green.